Is everybody ready?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to ask you guys a few questions before we get started. Has anybody here heard of Marie Kondo? How about Martha Stewart? Maybe Real Simple Magazine? Has anyone ever read any books or blogs or articles about organizing and wonder why nothing seems to work for you? The reason why nothing seems to work is because they aren't writing these articles and books just for you. If your name's not in the title, it's not written just for you. They don't know your life, they don't know what stresses you out, they don't know where you live, they don't know how many people live in your home, or even how much money you make. My name is Ruth Groves, and I am a professional organizer. Yes, that is actually something that people do. I took an online class to get my certification in 2014, but I've always had an interest in organizing. In the past, I would go to people's homes and help them get organized. What I observed when I went into their spaces is that everyone is organized, they might just not know it, or feel like they aren't living up to some unseen standard that they've set for themselves. I found that when I've helped people figure out their organizing style, they were able to keep organized, and that's why we're here tonight. We're going to help you figure out your style of organizing, what level you're at, and then I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to work within your style. So let me tell you my rules about organizing. You can help yourself. You don't need fancy containers, you don't need to get rid of things, and no one is judging you. There is no one way or right way to organize. So tonight's class will actually be in two parts. The first, we're going to see which level of organizing you're at. We're going to take a little test and see if you're at a beginner level or a level of mastery. We'll then look at the different basic styles of organizing. We'll look at each one and see which one or more than one applies to you, because you might find that you have one level of organization at home, another one at work, etc. I want you to see that you can say that you're not organized. In fact, how many people here believe that they are just not organized people? Well, I'm here to tell you that you're here tonight. You've got yourself here tonight. Therefore, you are an organized person. And that's what you need to start believing about yourself. All right, so we're going to start with a personal organized assessment. Let's get that handed out first. Okay. You're welcome. And don't start the test just yet. We're going to go over it a little bit, and then we're going to start together.
Oh, yeah. No, I know.
All right, let me explain a little bit about this test. This is where we see if you're a beginner or more advanced than you think. Knowing this information can actually take a little bit of pressure off of you, because if you're a beginner, you don't have to try to be anything, than what you are. You are a beginner, and therefore that's the level that you're at. And if you have mastery, you can be proud of that and continue to work at that level. So the technical reason behind the test is to analyze the different areas of your life, such as attitudes and actions, goals, time management, and general life information. The questions give us a basic look to see where you're at in your organized life. When we start the test, you'll look at each statement. Don't think too long, and just answer the A for always, U for usually, S for sometimes, and R for rarely. Each A, U, S, and R has a point value, and we'll add up the points when everyone is done and go over our scores together. So why don't you all just take a moment and go ahead and take that test. Alrighty, so now that we've taken this test, and this is the only test you're going to have to take tonight, and like I said, this is just an individual assessment. So, if you have a 0 to 29, you are at the beginning level of organizing. You have decided that it's time to start being more organized, but you might not have the tools or know how to start. And that's, actually you've already figured out the place to start, because you're here. That is the place to start gathering more information. Is anyone here a beginner?
You said 0 to 29?
0 to 29.
And that's the sum of?
The sum total of everything, yeah. The next step up is developing. That's 30 to 59. What that means is that you've mastered some of the techniques of organizational skill, and you are occasionally putting them to use in your life with fair results on an irregular basis. So what that basically means is that you pay most of your bills on time. You try to make your appointments on time. You might be a little bit late. You might lose your keys occasionally. You're developing your organizing skills. You're able to be organized about some things, maybe not everything. The next level, and I have to tell kind of a funny joke about this because I had my kids take this test as well, and both of them expected to be like beginning. Both of them were completely shocked to see that they were actually acceptable, but now I told them I'm holding them to that standard. So if you are acceptable, that's 60 to 89. You have mastered many of the techniques of organizational skill, and you are usually putting them to use in your life with good results on a fairly consistent basis. Is it possible to achieve a level of acceptable and need to go no further? Yes, but that depends on your goals. If this is a level that you feel really comfortable at, then that's the level that you're going to work at. But if you have certain goals that you want to reach and you need to kind of tweak your organization, that's when you want to work to the next level, which is mastery, and that's 90 to 120.
You're a master, Mom.
You're really?
Yeah, you're a master.
To be honest, I've talked to a number of professional organizers that use this test. There are professional organizers that have not reached mastery. You can know a lot about a subject but not actually apply it in your real life. So for mastery, you have mastered the techniques of organizational skill, and you are putting them to use in your life with excellent results on a consistent basis. It's possible that you have achieved mastery in one area of your life and not another. You can be completely organized at work and not at home. We're human. We all have that balance. So now that we know where you're at with organizing, either the beginner all the way up to mastery, we're going to start going over the different styles. You might find that you can be more than one. You can be a different style at work, a different style at home. You can even be multiple styles when you're at home. So I have a sheet for you on this, and this also leaves space under each style for you to take notes. And what we'll do is we'll go through this really kind of quickly together. And then I'm going to give you a minute to kind of look at them and think about what you might be. You might want to put a little mark next to each one that you think that you are, and then we're going to go over them in more detail. And that's when I'm going to get into the tips and the tricks of how to organize for each one of these styles. Organizing style. The everything out organizing types maintain their style by leaving things out in the open as visual reminders. By leaving things out where they hopefully can easily put their hands on them, they feel more organized and control. And again, if you think you're one of these, maybe put a little mark to it, but like I said, we're going to give you a minute after this to kind of look through them again just to see which ones you might be. The minimalist. The minimalist organizing style types thrive on only having essentials. They pass up free items and rarely pick up materials unless they have an absolute need. They prefer to live in the now and let go of past items once it's served its purpose. They appreciate the value of memories but do not connect those memories to things nor keep things for sentimental reasons. The no rules organizing style. The no rules organizing style types tend to look a bit disorganized to others, even though they may know what they have and where they have it, and be able to find it when absolutely necessary. This personality style type typically struggles due to their lack of systems. Sometimes this style revs up when people experience sudden change, transition, illness, or are overwhelmed in their current or recent past life situation. This style can be temporary. Or for some, it's more permanent. The nothing out organizing style. The nothing out organizing style types tend to equate a clear surface with a clear and organized mind. Nothing outs will clear their surfaces and put things away to feel more in control. They dislike and avoid messiness in their visible and public spaces. Because they dislike mess, they often tend to stash away items without a storage or retrieval system. Because of this tendency, it is necessary for them to maintain organization even when items are not visible. The saver organizing style. The saver organizing types think that virtually everything might come in handy someday. Savers often feel they may need it one day and use this as a reason to save, store, and sometimes stockpile items. An item's possibility is a reason to keep perfectly good items they paid good money for, even if they have no use for them now or for the foreseeable future. This is not a hoarder. Some people, like when they see that, they think, oh, they're hoarding things. Hoarding is a completely different topic that if, that would be a whole other class unto itself. Savers are just people that kind of stockpile and keep. And the final one is the straightener organizing style. Straightener organizing style types love the appearance of straight lines and tidy piles. A straightener loves nothing more than neat piles, even if they don't know what's in those piles. Straighteners may straighten to tidy up, yet fail to organize the items they're straightening. Therefore, they sometimes look more organized than they actually feel. So take a little moment, look through these real briefly, put a little mark next to the ones that you think you might be or the one you might be, and then we're going to really break them down into detail.
So it can be more than one.
Oh, you definitely can more than one.
Ruth, can I ask you a question?
Sure, of course.
Do you find that people are one or the other things with different things in their life, not just their different roles, but like the things that they prioritize more? Because like as I'm thinking about it, I think, well, I hoard some things but not others, and you know what I mean?
You'll definitely see, like, I know for myself, it can also be the time of the year. There's certain times of the year where I just want to get rid of things. There's more times of the year where I just want to, look around at my stuff and I'm like, I can't believe I got rid of anything and I want to keep it. So I think it can be situational, it can be locationally. That's why I like to go through all the styles so you can kind of pick and choose and say, okay, this works for me here, this works for me here. So you have those options.
Okay.
Some people are very much one style, some people can fluctuate through all six. Are there any other questions since we have a moment?
No.
All right, I think we're ready to kind of dive deep into it. So we're going to start with the everything out organizing style. Does anyone here think that they're an everything out organizing style person? I'm actually one of those as well. So with the definition again, so the everything out organizing style maintains their flow by leaving things out in the open as visual reminders. An example of that could be like pens in a holder instead of pens in a desk. In and out boxes on your desk instead of things filed away. Notes taped everywhere, cork boards and memo boards and white erase boards everywhere with notes on them. Even in your kitchen, you can have all these appliances out and all of your tools out instead of put in a drawer. So that's really what an everything out person is that they feel by leaving those things out where you can easily put your hands on them, you feel more organized. You can see it, therefore it's organized. So does anyone, like I said, we both, those who feel that that is their style. So here are some tips for that style. Is again, every single one of these styles, there's not a good style, there's not a bad style, there's not a good level or a bad level. You know you're a beginner and you know that this is your style. You're going to try one or two things. If you have mastery, you're going to try more. And that's all that we're really kind of getting on, tonight. So here's some tips for the everything out organizing style person. You want to survey your desks and your living spaces often. You want to make sure that the visible items are only the ones that you use. Basically, you don't need 400 pens. Go through your pens, get rid of the ones that don't work, throw them out. Get yourself down to 10. So again, you can keep them out, you just don't need as many. And please let me know if I'm going a little fast. I'm from New York, so I sometimes speak quick. So if you need me to repeat anything, please let me know. With your spaces, you want to schedule consistent times for maintaining those spaces. So let's just talk about your desk. Your desk, you have everything out, you have all of these piles. Sure, of course. So you have your desk, you have all of these piles. What you want to do is maybe schedule once a day, once a week, or even once a month. To have a moment, an hour or so to go through everything, just making sure that what is out is what you need. And that can work on your schedule. If it's something you can do daily, do it daily. If it's something you really think you can only do once a week, just do it once a week. Another tip for this style is use color. Assigning a different color for a clear purpose. And that way when you see things that are green, that could be your financials. Maybe it's red, that's your design ideas. You know, blue, gardening ideas. You know, sometimes with that color coding, you see the color, you immediately know what it is, so that way you don't have to search for it. And then if you're going to use storage, you're going to want to use clear storage. Clear containers allow you to see and automatically know what's stored in there. A little tip with that is you might even want to just tape a little list to the outside of it. You know, these are my office supplies, and you can put what's in there. If that's too much for you, you have the clear container, you can see what's inside of it. Now, for those of you who think that you're in everything out, does anybody have any questions or about your certain circumstances that you want any other additional tips for? If you can't think of anything now, we're going to also come back to this at the end. Yes?
I was just wondering, like, it seems like they relate to learning style and memory. So anything about that?
I think that, you know, again, it also depends on the individual. I know for myself and the way that I learn, I'm a visual learner, therefore I want all those sorts of visuals out. You know, so that's, does definitely tie into your learning style. You know, again, use, you know, you are who you are, use what you are. If you're a visual learner, use a visual system. Any other questions? Okay, we'll go right to the next style, which is the minimalist. Does anyone here think that they're a minimalist? I don't meet that many when it comes to organizing, but if there are, that is definitely your organizing style, and there's definitely tips I can give you on that. And some of these tips may apply to you even if you don't think that you're a minimalist. So the minimalist organizing style types thrive on only having essentials. They pass up free items and rarely pick up materials unless they have an absolute need. So you're not going to see many minimalists at like garage sales, antique stores, and things like that. They prefer to live in the now and let go of past items if they've served their purpose. They appreciate the value of memories, but do not connect those memories to things nor keep things for sentimental reasons. So, the most important thing that I say to minimalists, and this actually I was talking to a coworker about this, and her husband is a minimalist, and she's been kind of butting heads with him based on this. Minimalists should take the time to evaluate the importance of items so their personal items are not tossed in haste. Sometimes minimalists, instead of actually dealing with the item, will just throw it away. What we recommend is take a moment, make sure you know what the item is before you throw it away. It's especially important for minimalists to not throw out other people's belongings without permission.
Amen.
That's a pretty big deal for a lot of people. You can't control other people, you can only control yourself. So if you are a minimalist and you're dealing with other people, you have to respect their things. Think about your housemates and gift givers as well. If someone in the family is giving you a very, something that is precious to them and you really have no use for it, don't throw it away. Have a designated space for gifts that you shouldn't get rid of. So maybe like in the basement, you have an area where that's where the things go when this family member is coming to visit. And that way you can retrieve them quickly as well. And that's just a good tip for anybody. If you have those items that you just can't get rid of because someone who's given it to you might ask about it, have a special space for that. So you can grab those items quickly, you know where they are. That's the whole idea, a lot of us have heard about the spark joy, just get rid of things to spark joy. That doesn't spark joy in a lot of people. That instant moment of getting rid of things might, but a month later it might not. So if you are not a minimalist, you might not want to just get rid of things quickly. You might really want to take that time. And I'll actually tell you about a little, at the end of this, some ways to develop organizing plans. And one of those is when you're getting ready to get rid of things, put them in a box, put them away, look at it in a week. A week later, if you're ready to get rid of it, then get rid of it. So that, that works better for some people. For minimalists, you want to use multi-purpose storage. You don't want to have, obviously, excess containers. And you want to use simple and straightforward systems. If you're a minimalist and you have a filing system, You should have one thing called bank, not checking account, savings account, and that sort of thing. That's too many files. For minimalists, you want very simple files, very simple subjects. Does anybody have any questions about that? If you don't mind, I'll take a sip of water before we continue. All right. The next is the no rules organizing type. Does anybody think that they're this one yet?
Yes, me too.
So the no rules organizing style types tend to look disorganized to others. Even though they may know what they have and be able to find it when absolutely necessary, this personality style typically struggles due to their lack of systems. Sometimes this style revs up when people experience sudden change, transition, illness, or are overwhelmed in their current or recent past life situations. This style can be temporary. So some people, this style is definitely their style. But, you know, if you're going through a lot of craziness, you're moving, there's family issues, all of a sudden all your organizing systems go out the window, which is fine. We're human, we all need that break. But you can still maintain a little bit of organization when you're in that moment. So here's some tips for you. It can be helpful for no rules personalities to know that changes can come gradually, and the best systems are those that are convenient and easy to manage and maintain. Start small, and I can't stress that enough. One space or one project at a time. Yes?
Could you speak a little slower?
Sure, of course. So with the no rules personality type, you want systems that are convenient and easy to manage and maintain. So here's an example of that. I was working with a woman who's basically an organized person, but she had piles about this high of just papers and brochures and letters, and every time I scheduled to work with her, she canceled, about the 5 or 6 times. Eventually, I said to her, because I realized what was going on, I said, look, I'm gonna come over for 15 minutes. We're gonna do 2 or 3 pieces of paper, and that's it. So I came over, we literally just did 1 or 2 pieces of paper, and about a half an hour later, we just kept going. It was that fear, it was that anxiety of just getting started. So that's why, if this is where you're at, don't overwhelm yourself. Start with one thing. Do one thing a day. Do one thing in a week, whatever makes sense to you. Be proud of that accomplishment. But if you're not naturally ready to tackle a mountain of papers or 300 candle holders, don't. Start small. Start with one thing. Start with what you can manage. No rules organizing style types may require unconventional solutions to help them get, stay, and feel more organized. An example of that is furniture for another purpose. You know, they have those wine racks that you can put on the counter on your kitchen. If you turn that wine rack on its side, it can store wrapping paper, socks, glasses. So you might have these things in your home. Don't feel like you need to go out and buy a lot of stuff. Take something, turn it over, that just might work for you. If it works, use it. If this style is dominant as a result of a life transition, no rules personalities are encouraged to ask for professional support and design a reliable organizing method and storage system. This is where I would say you would look at like a Marie Kondo or a blog or a website. If you really are just shaken for not knowing where to start, don't say, well, I'm just not going to start. That's when you might want to read an article, just to see what someone else is saying. That's why you might want to look at a blog. That's when you might want to look at Marie Kondo or seek out a professional organizer. I have a sign-in sheet when you all came in that I have asked for your name and email addresses, but if you notice, my information is on these sheets as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me, especially if you're in a situation where you just really don't know where to start. Does anyone have any other questions? This is a pretty, this organizing style I could go pretty deep in, but we're just kind of covering the basics today. So are there any other questions about the no rules organizing style? Yes.
I don't know, I guess it might fit in with this. I was a caregiver for both my parents, and they both came through, the greatest, they both came through the war, the Depression. They didn't throw anything away.
Right.
And I think one of the things that I gave a lot of their clothes, I donated a lot of other things, but some of the things that were valuable to them that I had maybe for sentimental reasons, I'm having trouble, I don't want to just throw them away.
Right.
And because I feel like I'm throwing a part of them away.
Oh, yes.
So what suggestions do you have for something like that?
What I would say, that again, we can go very deep on it, but when you have that emotional attachment to items, I would say sit with the items for a bit. See, and so say you have 20 items, just to throw out a number, I would say.
There's a lot more than 20.
Okay, no, I totally understand that, but you wanna start with like small blocks of things. If
Okay.
you look at the big picture, it's gonna be too
Okay.
overwhelming. Certain things you might wanna display. Certain things you can pass on to family and friends and pass on that memory. I have a friend of mine who recently had to downsize pretty significantly and is finding it very hard to get rid of her items. So every time I visit her, she gives me boxes of stuff, so she doesn't have to think about it, and she knows, you're taking it, it's going to go to a good place, so I bring it home. Some of it I donate, some of it I gift, some of it I keep, and some of it I sell. You know, because then someone else can have that as well. So you kinda have to start breaking things down, little by little, one or two things at a time. If there's certain things that you know you can sell, that you know someone else will get joy from, or donate, go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Because that's the gift of giving someone.
No, I mean,
you
I
know, when you have it.
donated a lot, I gave
Right.
away a lot, but there's still,
There's, you know, then when you have to start looking at those, their family, and then there's also the reality is the memories don't go away,
right?
even though you have the stuff. And some people do scrapbooks, they'll take pictures of the items, and that way they can have the picture and they can write a memory about it. Some people just, you know, take a few pictures and maybe frame them instead of actually having the item. You know, those are some of just like my basic suggestions with that. But it's a start, you know, just to maybe, you know, every now and again, you don't have to do it all at once, try to get rid of maybe one or two things, or gift one or two things. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah.
Yes. You're welcome. All right, we're gonna jump to the next organizing style. This is called the nothing out organizing style. The nothing out organizing style types equate a clear surface with a clear and organized mind. Nothing outs will clear their surfaces and put things away to feel more in control. They dislike and avoid messiness in their visible and public spaces, and I stress that because it's the visible and public spaces that they don't like the messiness. Because they dislike this mess, they often stash items away without a storage or retrieval system. Throw everything into the closet, you know, when the company's coming.
Junk drawer.
Yes, exactly. Because of this, I think, you know, who here doesn't have a junk drawer or two or three? I mean, I think those are just a reality.
What?
Because of this tendency, it's necessary for them to maintain organization even when items are not visible. So how many people here are nothing outs? I also happen to be a nothing out as well. So tips for organizing for this style. Obtain adequate storage and reliable retrieval systems so not to feel disorganized behind the scenes. That's where your containers and your container lists go. You can mad dash clean, you know, and that I get, but if you're regularly have like a pile of this and a pile of that, say you have a pile of purses, take that pile of purses, throw it into a tub, write purses on it, store it away. That way you know anytime you have purses, that's where they go. You know, it's not like a very complicated system just to stash those away and retrieve those. You want to create workable filing systems that are adequately labeled so things are easy to recognize and retrieve. That's the pretty much biggest thing about this organizing style. You want to be able, even though you're stashing things away, you still want to be able to retrieve them. If you're going to use storage systems, you want to use storage systems for both active and long-term projects. So for myself, I actually have one of those desks with the sliding tray, but I don't have a keyboard on that anymore. So that's where my current projects are going. I then have a pile behind my computer for things that I'm doing within the next month or two. And then I have a little wheelie cart that has 3 levels on it. I have the class on this one level, I have like another project I'm working on another level, and then a final level. I love filing cabinets, I love cubbies, and I love carts on wheels. For someone like me, who likes to have some stuff out in the open and some stuff not, that wheelie cart can get wheeled into a closet when the company comes. But when I need it, it's sitting by my desk. And that way it can be completely in disarray and disorder, but when I want to corral things, it goes away, but I know what's there. It's nothing outs who find computerized planning and scheduling tools very appealing. I happen to not be a very computer kind of person, so I have my desk calendar, I have my paper lists. But if you're someone who doesn't like all of this stuff visible, that's where your computer stuff and your apps come in. I can't give you any help on that. I have a 20-year-old and a 15-year-old that help me with that sort of stuff. They're my IT guys. But there are plenty of, obviously, resources out there for that one. You want to find organizational products that hide things from view. For example, decorative boxes, multi-purpose furniture like an ottoman, you know, those things, you know, you don't want to use clear storage if you're quickly trying to stash things. Is there any questions about that organizing style? we're gonna jump right next to the saver organizing style. Is anyone here a saver? Savers think that virtually everything might come in handy someday. Savers often feel they may need it one day, and this is the reason, and use this as a reason to save, store, and sometimes stockpile items. An item's possibility is a reason to keep perfectly good items they paid good money for, even if they have no use for them now or for the foreseeable future. For the example, empty boxes. You know, every time you get a box, you cut, for a while there, every time I got a box, anything, I would cut it down, put them in the basement. We had a stack about this big, I don't need that many boxes. But you never know, you might need an empty box. Brochures, anytime you travel, you wanna keep all your brochures. Do we really need to keep all of these things? No. And so here are some tips for the saver organizing style. You should review your stashes to be sure that they are easy to find, use, and enjoy. So if you're stashing away things and you don't know where they are, you might repetitively buy them. So always make sure what you're stashing is.
So, one thing that I save are my son's artwork, and I have a huge stack of their artwork. Do you have any tips for kids?
Kids stuff.
Yes. They're all I don't know what I can't pick and choose.
Oh, no, it's definitely difficult. So the artwork is so personal. So one of the easiest things to do is to take pictures of the items and create a scrapbook out of that.
Okay.
Maybe even have the boys write down their memories about what they did. A certain pictures you can turn into artwork for family members as gifts, or even for for them, you can frame a few things and put that up on the wall. I have a lot of my girls' stuff in a tub that I plan on, when they were in kindergarten, preschool, all those little projects. Well, once they got into high school, I had them go through it. They don't remember any of it. And they said, Mom, just get rid of it. And at first I was like, but it didn't take away from the memory that, the lack of memories they had when they did this stuff because they were 2, but it was just, the funness of it. It's tough to do when they're little, so sometimes just putting that stuff in a nice container and sliding it under a bed helps. And that way you don't have to make that decision right away.
I asked my daughters to pick out 5 of their favorites.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another great suggestion. You have them and be involved in it. And even say to them, if you want me to keep all of this, you need to help me figure out where to put it. And that also then you're kind of educating them as well. This is your stuff, this is where it goes.
Oh, excuse me?
Yes.
So my daughter had a huge amount of artistic things that she did in school. And I found out that her my son's bassinet worked perfectly as a place to store these large pieces of art. So we still have them up in the attic, but they're in the bassinet.
Yep, I actually have my daughter's bassinet, and I keep in there the stuffed animals they got when they were little that I couldn't just part with, So yeah, those bassinets definitely serve a wonderful purpose. Okay, here we go for some other tips. Are there any other questions since we stopped for a moment? All right, savers should work to stop the inflow of items in their collections. You also want to avoid holding onto items you no longer need or use. Now, I'm saying this, I'm going to let you know, I try to adhere to that rule, except for books. I cannot get rid of books. I have 4 copies of Interview with a Vampire. I'm not getting rid of a single one. So, because they're all different covers. What you need to decide, everyone gets to decide what's important to them. That was sort of the thing I kind of mentioned in the beginning. You don't owe anything to anyone when it comes to organizing. I'm going to keep the 4 copies of that books. I have room for it. Every now and again, my husband and I go, okay, we need to get rid of books. We go through our huge collection, and we both work for Borders Books, so we have a lot of books. We maybe get rid of one, and then we look at it and we go, nah, and we just put it right back. But it's, it is a struggle. But what we decided to do, because we're keeping all of those books, we sacrificed other things. We pared down our albums. We don't have as many CDs around. We have a lot of books. So if you're a saver, just know what your collections are and know the ones that you want to really hold on to everything and the ones that you can minimize a little bit to make room for the stuff that you want. Savers often struggle with letting go of reading materials that are not current and may hold on to them for reference. Well, there's this thing called the internet. Everything is online. And I'm currently been going through all of my files and just get rid of things. I used to keep all these articles for decorating. Gone. Because you can go on go on Google, how do I decorate the bathroom? And you'll get all the information you need. One thing I did do with someone though, because she really had a hard time getting rid of those paper, we did binders. She had wonderful, this huge cabinet that had nothing in it. She now has these beautiful binders that are beautifully decorated that have all of her articles in them, because that was important to her to save all of them. So we just created a system to save them. So if these articles are really important to you, create a system to save them. When working to diminish your clutter, savers need to review and minimize collections so they fit within the available space, then review the space for future items. So if you are, say, collecting candlesticks and you have a certain shelf for them and it's full, you don't get to bring any more candlesticks in. You have to kind of start playing that game, bring one in, bring one out. Does anyone have any other questions about the saver organizing style? Okay, the last style we have here is the straightener. The straightener organizing style types love the appearance of straight lines and tidy piles. A straightener loves nothing more than neat piles, even if they don't know what's in those piles. Straighteners may straighten to tidy up, yet fail to organize the items they're straightening. Therefore, they sometimes look more organized than they actually feel. An example of that is an organized desk that you don't actually work at, or kitchen appliances that are really neat and clean, but you never use them. Now, I was perfect at this as a child. My parents are in the room, so I don't know if this is like, something I'm giving up or not. But when I was in elementary school, and you had that desk, my desk was immaculate. I had everything in my desk. I didn't do any work, but I had the neatest desk. And that's really what a straightener does. You can have the neatest desk, but you're not really doing anything with it. So a straightener needs to monitor what they keep and avoid straightening items just because they have them. The example of that is utensils. We all have those utensil drawer with a ton of utensils, and you're constantly straightening and cleaning them. You might want to look at how many you're actually using. And therefore you don't have to straighten and clean so many. You might want to pare down that a little bit. I bring up candle holders a lot because I am a candle hoarder. So I kind of have a lot of candle holders. But I do every now and again, I go through my collections. I'm like, I really don't need 10 green candle holders, and I don't have a single green room in the house. So it's time to, get rid of some of those. Approach your organizing tasks with an end goal in mind. And this can actually work with any of the organizing styles. If, say, you have a ton of plastic containers and you really need to get rid of them, so you go to the cabinet that they're in, you see them all there, you realize you can use this, this, and this, so you just straighten them and leave them all there. If you haven't really done anything, what you need to do is you go to that drawer and say, I'm going to get rid of 5 things, and get rid of 5 things. Or I'm going to get rid of 3 things, and get rid of 3 things. Or match up all the bottoms and the tops, and if you have extras, get rid of them. So that's what it means about having an end goal in mind. Don't go into something and just say, I'm going to straighten. Go in and say, I'm going to get rid of 5 things. And that way, you do it, check it off, and you're done. And then you won't get kind of sidetracked with the straightening. When you approach projects, if things are already neat, you don't need to straighten them. That's the straightening. So look at what you're looking at. If it's already neat, you don't need to spend the time straightening it. Think about, you might want to do something else with it, like maybe getting rid of it or relocating it. So now that we went through all of those styles, does anybody have any questions about stuff that they're struggling with in their own home, work, office that they would like to ask me about? And kind of then I can maybe time either into these styles, or I can just give you general tips about.
Yeah, one thing I have problem with is papers that I've collected, articles, things in the past.
Right.
And when I read them, they are really helpful, really useful. I wouldn't know where to find them on the internet.
Right.
Particularly if they're 7 years old.
Oh, then that's when
So
you
what do I
want,
do with
that's when you want to start looking at binders or any sort of, papers, like a container that you can keep the papers in. Clear sheets in a binder.
what sort of containers?
Well, I think, sometimes they sell like file folders. Yeah, like the accordion folders maybe, something like that. And that way you can label them or date them if you need to, and that way they're all in one place. I'm trying to think of this, like any sort of like, sometimes they have those files that go on a door if you want them to be able to access them quicker than actually in a file folder, or a filing cabinet is another option as well. Any other questions?
Can you address the issue of diplomacy with your significant other if you have different styles?
Okay, that's my father. before I address this, when you're dealing with someone who has a different organizing style, which we do see a lot, obviously, because everyone's different, it's all about communication. You have to address what's important to each person and respect that. That's really the first thing, is just really respecting each other and having that open conversation. And so say, let's just think about like maybe it's just a room. That there's one person that wants everything put away in that room and the other person wants everything left out. So what you need to do is say, okay, how do we use this room? Who uses this room? So if say it's primarily one person, that one person really does get the say in that room if that's their space. If it's a space that you both use, you really have to figure out what do you desperately need, and try to find that common ground. I need to keep every single remote, even if they don't work, I need to keep every single remote. Okay, we can keep every single remote, but we need to put them in a box so they're not sitting out. So there's ways to make that compromise. But you also have to make sure you're just really not impeding on, someone else's emotions, like with the minimalist. Don't throw away people's things without asking them, because then that's just gonna create friction. Don't feel that you can organize in your style and expect the other person to, understand that. You really have to communicate. And sometimes within that communication, you might find that you have things in common that you might not have realized. My husband, when I first met him, was a minimalist. I am not. So what I come to find out, though, when I'm speaking with him, is that as much as he's a minimalist, he does have a lot of emotion tied to things. And I also have emotion tied to things, so that's how we were able to kind of find that common ground. And he realized what was important to me was important, and so that we would keep it. And that there were things that were important to him that he might not even realize that were so important, because he was just so quick to throw things away, that I would keep, so that maybe in a few weeks' time, or a few months, or a few years, he would be happy that I actually kept it. So it's just really communicating with that person, understanding who's using that space, and then respecting each other's differences. I mean, that's pretty much life in general, but it works for organizing too. Any other questions?
One of the things you said, which I thought that, and it's actually worked out like that, is if you're undecided, you always keep it out. So every time you go past it, or after a week, you'll know what you really want to do.
That's a really
And that
good,
works.
that's a really good point. Let me find my notes on that. I want to discuss that a little bit. Here we go. So if you want to create an organizing plan, actually what Ruth was just saying, one thing I do with people is say they have a closet that they want to purge. And that's usually the biggest thing I used to get called about was closets. So what you would do is that you would take everything out. And then I would have designated spaces. One would be the trash. You know what it's a belt that you haven't worn in 30 years and it's completely ripped, that's your trash. There is the recycle or donate. Things that you want to donate, things that you think you can just recycle, especially if you're getting rid of plastic things, always check and make sure if you can recycle them, definitely do. You're gonna then want a sell pile. Always have stuff around that you can sell, either at a yard sale, or if there's like a community sale, or, if worse comes to worse and you don't have a sell, put that in your donate. Then obviously there's the keep pile, but then there's the I don't know pile. I always throw in an I don't know pile, because we all have those items that at that moment you can't decide. That's why I don't like the idea of spark joy. Look at it and decide. It's not always that easy. So I always try to have a box, not a huge box, but a medium-sized box that people put things in that they're not sure about. And I even say, put stuff in that box, and if I'm continuing working with them, I'll say, when we come back next week, we'll look at that box. Or in a week's time, in a month's time, put a note on it, revisit this box in a month. And that way, those emotional things that you're really not sure about, you have time to think about. And then maybe in a week or even a month's time, it might not be as important, or you might realize that it's really important to you, then keep it. But one thing I always say, anything that you're gonna keep in that moment, find a home for it. Always find a home for it right away. You really don't wanna wait on that. So it's super important to keep at that moment, find a home for it. If it's in the pile that you need to think about, as soon as you make a decision about it, find a home for it.
I used to do another collection is people who I can give it to, who
Exactly.
really like it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, gifting. Another way to choose a system, and it's pretty general as well, you pick a space, you pick a to-do, and you pick a time. So if you want to do, like, we'll go back to the plasticware. I'm going to do my plasticware, I need to sort through it, and I'm only going to do it for 15 minutes. Because the other thing about setting time limits is that it also takes the pressure off of you. If you think about it, say we had this whole room that we had to clean, and we're like, okay, we're gonna take 5 hours to do it. That sounds really overwhelming. But if you say, okay, we're just gonna clean this small area for the next 15 minutes, that seems so much more manageable. So don't think about even overhauling your whole desk. Look at your desk and say, divide it into 3s. I'm gonna do this for half an hour today. I'm gonna do this for half an hour tomorrow. Make things that are manageable to you. If you try to set too big of a goal, too big of a time frame, you're not gonna do it. You have to work with the time that you have and your patience. You know, so all of us only have so much patience. When I work with organizing clients, I try not to do more than an hour. Because after an hour, you know, we all start thinking about other things where you need to be. It's the same thing with your own personal organizing. Don't do it longer than you can. It's only 5 minutes, do 5 minutes. If you can do an hour, do an hour. But I really wouldn't even do more than that. All right, well, I think we're gonna be wrapping up right about now. So just remember, this is just the beginning of your organizing journey. Don't pressure yourself to make all the major changes tomorrow. Just take 1 or 2 of the tips and tricks and give them a try. See if they work, and definitely pat yourself on the back, reward yourself if you've done it. So what I'd like to ask is that if you have any questions going forward, my information is at the bottom of these sheets. I have a sign-in sheet at near the door. Please feel free to give me your name and email address, because it's possible if I do other classes like that, I might want to reach out to you. And thank you all so much for attending this tonight. I hope you learned a little something. Yes?
Question.
Sure.
You know how there's like a do not call list, like
Yes.
your phone number, is there like a do not mail list?
Yes.
Because do you have information on
That I don't, that's something that I probably would just go on to Google and look for, it's a junk mail list, you can get off junk mail lists. I told them to get off junk mail.
It's stuff, like I got something in the mail yesterday, and I'm like, I didn't know, I didn't ask for it.
Right.
It's like, where did this
Yeah.
come from? And
You
they're
get
like,
all
oh,
the
it's
yeah.
on the internet, so.
Oh, that's yeah, there's plenty of like lists that you can get off
But
of.
apparently there's like, companies that will sell
Yeah, I mean,
rights, and I'm
that's,
like, where are they getting
yeah,
it?
that is way beyond my scope of understanding how, I mean, there's just deep lists of information on how they sell it.
That's what.
Okay, so I just Googled it.
Yeah, just research how to do not mail, get off junk mail lists, things like that.
Any other recommendations that would be things that would help?
I'm not a big fan of recommending specific things to read because people are so
Or watch on
different.
TV, or, I mean, one thing.
And see, I happen to be a big fan of Martha Stewart because of her longevity is really it. But I read a lot, and I mentioned Real Simple Magazine because they're written by an organizing, you know, the people that do that are kind of organizers. But, I mean, if you think about the people who, there's some people that come and go with organizing. If someone's been around for a long time,
Yeah.
that's usually a good place to start.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
You know,
Sorry.
we were just talking about like the emotional attachments people have,
Oh, yeah.
and that might make another good class.
Oh, yeah.
If you and I decided to, right?
Oh,
Just
yeah.
throw it out
The
there. That was
emotional-
actually
yeah.
Marina's idea.
The emotional attachment to things really makes sometimes this process very difficult.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to say, oh, I'm just gonna get rid of things. It's not that easy, and that's why I always say, one thing at a time, one space at a time, and just be patient with yourself. Any other questions? Yes?
Now, where do you usually recycle and sell things? What do you recommend in terms of what's successful?
I start actually with the school district for 2 reasons. One, the high school does a lot of philanthropy, and so they're always looking for items. I also reach out to certain counselors. My daughters went to Barclay Elementary School, so and I know the counselor there, and I know sometimes there's families in need. So I can reach out to her. She doesn't give me any personal information, but then at least I know how I can get people things. You know, if you know anybody in the borough, sometimes they have connections with people who need things. Yes?
I use Freecycle. In
Yeah.
fact, I just, watched Marie Kondo and just got rid of
Oh,
a
yeah.
whole bunch of stuff from
Free
Freecycle.
cycling, Facebook pages, online community sale pages, those are great places to get rid of things. I'm a big fan of community yard sales, just talk to your neighbors. Be like, hey, let's just all put stuff out and see what happens.
There's also those like the Purple Heart, like the
Green
trucks
Drop.
that'll come and pick things up.
Oh, yeah.
Like for veterans and,
Yeah.
They'll actually come to your door, you don't
Yeah.
have
Oh, yeah.
to take, I mean, you don't have to haul them down.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
They'll come and pick them up.
and then there's that Green Drop
Oh, the
too.
Green Drop is amazing. They're near Redner's.
Yeah, they're
Um,
in the truck
I
in
have-
the parking
I
lot.
booked, they have a book drop there, so I have actually donated books there. Furniture, clothing, yeah, they take so many things and they do such a wonderful job with it.
Do they pick things up? like furniture?
They might, I'm not 100% sure, because they do have a truck, so I'm imagining they might,
You
but
have
you'd
to
have to
make
look
an
into it.
appointment.
Yeah.
Habitat Store is something.
Oh,
I
yeah,
forget the name
yeah.
of it.
And,
Oh, that's a good
Restore, that's
idea.
it.
yeah. Oh, yeah, Habitat for Humanity, that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
they call it
Well,
Restore.
Habitat for Humanity, if you contact them, you can, sometimes they have, locations and pickups, that you can get them stuff as well. And then, helping people establish new homes, so they look for like, furniture, appliances, things like that. Well, thank you all so much, feel free to fill out the sign-in sheet, I'm gonna be here for a few more minutes, if you have any other questions, thank you again.
Thank you.